So you'll notice the frames, they actually held up quite well. See, they didn't blow out. And they're only partially drawn, so that's pretty good. So you don't have to have a sheet of foundation or plastic in order to do your honey extracting. You can just do it off wild comb just like this. So we'll just give these another good spin. And because we're on the second go around, we can do it a little harder. See, that's pretty good. I broke a couple of the honeycombs, and I actually broke them out in the bee yard. I didn't break them in the extractor. In fact, I didn't break any frames running the extractor at all. It is a hand crank, which does help. You can kind of get a gauge for how much tension you're putting on it, but none of the natural comb broke inside the extractor. I actually broke my comb when I shook the bees out of the super that I've got here. So now what I've got to do is I've got to take these last couple pieces of comb, and I got the extractor tilted right now, so it's just getting the last of the honey out of the bottom. I'm running it through a screen on this 5-gallon pail. Looks like I'm going to get 5 gallons from the hives that I've harvested from. That's less than last year. We had a lot of rain this year, so I'm not sure how honey production was for where you are, but I've got about 5 gallons. And let me just get these last couple pieces here, and I'm going to mash them up inside the bucket here. And I just got my potato masher, and I'm just going to crunch them up right here. This will probably be an overnight process to strain all this honey through, because the wax kind of plugs it up a little bit. And it does eventually get through the screen, but it's usually an overnight process. So just take your time. You're not going to get it all in one day. And you just want to break that comb up. And I don't want to push down on my screen, so I'm trying to churn it around a few times just by lifting it. I don't want to accidentally break my screen that I'm putting the honey through. We don't want any hive beetles or bee legs or heads or anything else in our honey. To be honest with you, it's mostly hive beetles. I don't want any hive beetle in my honey. And I know there are some in here, but they're getting strained out, and that's why, again, it's so important that you collect your honey from the bee yard and harvest it immediately. That way your honey will stay nice and clean. The beetles won't have time to use your honeycomb as their personal bathroom. That's looking good. I got one more piece in here I gotta get. See, that broke off the frame on me. Like this. It broke off of there. So you have to be careful. And I wasn't careful enough. So I'm breaking up this last comb by hand. Turn it over. It's really full, so at least I'll get a full 5-gallon pail of honey. and I'll just have to nurse that throughout the year. There is still honey left that I did not harvest, but I'm very conservative of a beekeeper. Because I don't feed them, I don't want to over harvest either. So I'm real careful about leaving a little bit more than, you know, they probably need to get through the winter. If I want to, when I come in the spring, it's easy for me to collect a little extra honey right as the flow is beginning. So if I come out, for me, that would be March. When March rolls around, I could probably go in there and take all but a half of a frame of honey, and they would do fine because the flow would just start. They would harvest all kinds of nectar to make honey with. They would have no problem whatsoever, and that's a good time to do it. So even if I didn't get everything this fall, I can go back in the spring and just collect whatever I didn't get today. So you really never lose honey. So the honey, for example, there's just a little bit left on that frame. Well, that's fine. The bees will clean that up. They'll take it back, store it, and have something to winter over on. They always like when I harvest the honey and leave these frames out for them to clean up. And we're going to get some cold temperatures this week, so we've got just a couple more nice days. Hopefully it's decent where you are too, and if not, you know, there's always the wood shop. You can go out in the wood shop and you can get your gear ready for next year. That's a real important thing as a beekeeper. Your fall honey harvest is kind of when you're already thinking about spring for the following season. So that now is the time to take inventory of your frames. Frames just, they're like socks in a dryer, man. Frames, seems like you can have frames, a huge stack in your garage or barn, and you can go through those frames so fast, then you'll be like, where'd they all go? So you want to see how long it takes the bees to find that extra honey? Not long at all. I've had this frame outside of the hive less than 5 minutes, and look at all the bees that are on there now cleaning it up. Those are robber bees. They're just clearing out that honey, and I'll be able to reuse this comb for next year. Here's where I dropped the wax cappings off at. I just dumped them on the ground, and that was about a half hour ago. And here's all the other frames. They're just cleaning them off. Clean off all that excess honey, and they'll repack it inside their hives, and I'll just come get it next time.